In 2023, the NBA All-Star Game held 4.6 million viewers, the lowest we've ever seen. In 2024 followed with only 5.4 million viewers, and the NBA is scrambling to find an answer. From scoring and rule changes to team format adjustments, the All-Star Game continues to still struggle to pull in and entertain an audience with how unserious the game being presented truly is. This year is a real test for the NBA All-Star Game and for the league's marketability of its stars going forward. Wow. Hello. Hey, who you got winning the game, cuz? Get off my desk. She's literally, look, right? She's hijacking the desk. All right, bro. She's literally hijacking my desk. When did I tell you that that was okay? This year, the NBA decided to try out a new format. The Elite Unk crew of Shaq, Chuck, Kenny, and them big women down in San Antonio get to draft teams from the available pool of all-stars after they have been selected, and these teams will be thrown into a single elimination tournament with games being played to 40 points, and the fourth team is the winner of the Rising Stars game. And I think we could all imagine that those vets aren't trying to get showed up by the youngins. Adam Silver is doing his best to try to figure out a way to make the All-Star Game more competitive for the league and for the fans, but is it too late to revive what's been a dying product for a couple of seasons? There's only one way to find out. The biggest issue that many fans are very upset with in the All-Star Game, you see guys walking, jogging down the court, throwing alley-oops to each other without a defender within 20 feet of them, just standing around, chucking up threes from half court. And while some of these things may be somewhat cool for a moment, seeing an entire game of this can be very, very boring and a huge turnoff for many fans. Now, if you go back and watch some of the All-Star games from the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s, you can see the difference in a lot of these games being that the guys would actually try a little bit on defense, not excessively until the game would be close in the fourth quarter when they would really try to win the game. Nowadays, we don't even hardly see that, and a lot of times you just see guys just standing around not even trying to defend anything at all. And at some point, the game honestly makes you wonder why they're even playing defense in the first place. They might as well get out of the way and stand on the baseline until the other team scores, and then they can just have their turn. Last year's All-Star Game had a score of 211 to 186, with the East prevailing and Damian Lillard winning the All-Star Game MVP. If you just go back 15 years to the 2009 season, you can see that the West would win 146 to 119. This was actually about an average scoring All-Star game, and Kobe and Shaq would share the All-Star MVP. The unbelievable part of this to me is just that you can see the scoring difference is tremendous. A 50-point gap between both winning and losing teams just in a 15-year span. While players may not want to risk getting hurt in a game that has technically no meaning, this kind of fits in with the culture of today's NBA also, of load management and other issues that kind of tie into all one big problem of the guys don't care as much the privilege of being able to play and put on a show for these fans. Now, while it may be very cool to get to go see all these guys play in person, and I would never turn down the opportunity to do that, please send me tickets, please, please, please. It also does not change the fact that when the fans go, they don't really get to see a competitive game. Could you imagine nowadays how cool it would be to get to go to an All-Star game? You see LeBron versus Kevin Durant, or Steph Curry and Damian Lillard, or any of your favorite star players duking it out for an entire All-Star game and playing actually somewhat competitive basketball. I mean, I've seen better defense played in any pickup game that I've ever played in. And honestly, it's pushing a lot of narratives about today's NBA, and it's not good for the game. See, today's NBA already has the narrative going around that they don't play any defense, and when someone that doesn't watch basketball a lot turns on the All-Star Game and sees dudes playing defense like this, it's going to be a problem. Now, the narrative of the NBA's defense being good or bad is very subjective. Some people may not understand what it actually takes to play defense in an offensive-driven era, but regardless, the All-Star Game, it does not matter whether or not you think they play defense in the regular season, because the All-Star Game, they don't play whatsoever. And see, we can even compare this to the WNBA All-Star Game, we saw very much good defense being played. We saw Caitlin Clark being guarded full court by Kelsey Plum, and we could definitely tell that there was a lot of high stakes on the line, as Team USA did not want to get shown up by some of these younger players. And well, the NBA's All-Star Game, the new teams that are selected, well, it's almost like it was set up in this draft for a reason. When we look at the teams of the All-Star draft this year, it's actually split out in a very seemingly rigged manner. Team Chuck features almost entirely international players except for Donovan Mitchell. Team Kenny features almost all of the young and upcoming stars such as Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, Tyler Hero, Jaren Jackson Jr., Evan Mobley, and J-Dub. And Team Shaq, well, it's all Unk status for Unk himself. They got Steph, AD, KD, Harden, LeBron, Dame, and then you got Tatum and Brown. So the teams may not be entirely set up, but it almost looks like they were trying to push this kind of older players versus younger players and the international players just to try to force a little bit more competitiveness, which we'll see how that turns out this weekend coming up. I personally am a big fan of the way that they kind of drafted these teams to try to make the games more competitive, and I do like the Rising Stars aspect in a sense. We'll kind of get to see what the WNBA did, as they're not going to want the younger guys to show them up. I do like that Adam Silver's being proactive when it comes to trying to fix this. I just don't know if there's anything he can actually do when it comes to getting the players to care, because again, we are in an era that guys already are not trying to play every regular season game because they don't care about playing 70, 75, 80 games in a season. They just care about playing 40, 50 games, sometimes 60 depending on the player. Not everyone will do that, but they just care about getting to the playoffs, and then by that time they'll just be like, oh, okay, I'm healthy now. I do like the scoring change of the 40 points, meaning that now we'll hopefully get to see guys will actually try for those whole 40 points on the defensive end, because in a game where they're running up and down just chucking half court shots and final scores being 180, 190, 200 points, that's not going to cut it when it comes to the All-Star game. And when we look back at the All-Star game of previous seasons, this is not a dig at Steph Curry, but because he shot so well from three-point range and revolutionized the game of basketball, guys are literally shooting those deep threes because of him in the All-Star game. So we can look back and see that a couple of years ago, you look back at the All-Star games before 2016, and they really weren't as high scoring because they weren't shooting that many insanely deep three-pointers and just standing that bad on defense. And you could see that while it may be a little easier to score in today's NBA, it still doesn't change the fact that the guys just aren't trying on defense. A guy will drive to the rim, and instead of dropping his hips and stepping back to guard him, he'll just let him run right past for a wide open dunk. And that's one of those things that with the All-Star game, you can tell that players just don't care about it as much as they did before. And that's just the way that today's game is. When you look back at 2015 and before, teams weren't reaching that 160. Oh my. 150 was about the high mark of an All-Star game. Once you hit 2016, every All-Star game pretty much after that was just 190 points, somewhere 170, 180. It's not getting any better, and I hope that this new format really does have an answer for that. When it comes to the incentive of getting these guys to care, the winning team will each receive $125,000 per player. Well, the problem with this is almost all of these guys are either max contract players or nearly max contract players. The lowest contract player in the All-Star game is actually Jalen Williams on a 5-year, $20 million deal. So for him, this actually is kind of a big deal. But the problem is, I don't know if some of these other guys that make $200 million on a 4 or 5 year contract, if they're going to really show that they care at all. Now, a lot of the rising stars probably will, because $125,000 is quite a bit of money to some of these younger players who may not be on very big deals at all, or maybe were a second round draft pick, so they got put on a very small contract. Now, I will always watch the All-Star game regardless, because I've always just liked seeing all these guys play, because obviously I'm a big fan of pretty much every player in the All-Star game. But the problem with this is the diehard fans are always going to watch whether the product is crap or not. So the NBA is doing its best to try to get the casual viewers back in, but I don't think there's a way to get those players to truly care. They have to pull that from within themselves. And the thing is, we've seen in the past that guys have actually cared about the All-Star game. Heck, even in 2012, Dwayne Wade committed the first flagrant foul in All-Star game history against Kobe Bryant and broke the guy's nose. So that's the crazy part, is that in an All-Star game, he broke his nose. And nowadays, we can't even get guys to break up an alley-oop pass. Which, the thing is, you can tell that the guys were very shook up by the fact that Kobe broke his nose, so the defense declined a little bit after that because of they didn't want further injury to happen. But in the All-Star game does not have a vast history of so many injuries, guys not taking it seriously. That's where that disconnect really comes from for me. I mean, these guys will play in pickup games, open gyms, and summer runs. They'll take it more seriously than they do in the All-Star game, which is very insane to me. We've seen videos of, we'll see LeBron, we'll see Trae Young, these kind of guys playing in these summer runs, and they take it more seriously on both sides of the ball than they would in the All-Star game. I personally do think that the Luka and Anthony Davis trade will make the NBA grow a little bit as a whole, not just the All-Star game, but because now Luka Doncic is on a huge market team, that trade broke everything. And honestly, it took a lot of attention away from the Super Bowl, and on social media, you wouldn't see as much about the Super Bowl as you did about the Luka trade. I mean, everyone was talking about it. Even people that don't really keep up with basketball were like, what is going on? Why is this such a big deal? Part of that is the NBA is doing a good job of marketing that. Now they just need to translate that into marketing the actual games and the product. We've seen a little bit of that this year with the Thunder and Cavs matchups, the two best record teams in the NBA. The NBA did a good job about posting about that and marketing it. Well, can they do the same for the All-Star game? Now, one of the things with the marketing is the All-Star game will always be good and easy to market. You literally have a collection of all of the best talent in the NBA all in one place for an entire weekend, so it's so easy for the NBA to promote it. We saw when Jokic and Luka Doncic were on the same team in the All-Star game. All the clips of them just goofing around were so fun to watch, and it was very, very entertaining to see. But it's just the actual game itself, not the marketing, that's the problem. It'll always be easier to promote the game through social media because of the short attention span that some people have, but it still doesn't change the fact that they need to do something in order to fix this game.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
And the thing is, because of the number of people that'll be watching or attending the event, there are sponsors galore at this kind of thing. Everybody wants to be able to promote to the place where everybody has their eyes on the big names. If this new strategy of this year with the 40-point scoring limit and the 4-team format with the Rising Stars being the 4th team, if this actually works and increases viewership of the game, it'll be better for the league as a whole to make the games more competitive, and it'll be better for the game to grow when it comes to these casual viewers, bringing that audience back. What do you think of the All-Star game, and what can it do in order to save itself? Do you think the new format has a chance at fixing the problem, or do you think that the players still will not care about going out there and actually hooping instead of just kind of standing around and letting guys just chuck up a bunch of half-court shots? Thank you all for watching today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and thank you guys for the love on some of the recent videos. And as always, see you next time,